everyone, this is Maheen and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today we are looking at the practical side of the AI revolution because in 2026, the gap between businesses that talk about AI and those that actually install it into their operations is becoming the ultimate competitive divide. Joining us is Bradley Collins, the founder of Elevates Coaching and the creator of EAIOS, the Elevates AI operating system. Now, with 20 years in tech and a background in high-level leadership coaching, Bradley helps growth stage companies move from being AI curious to AI operational. And he is here today to show us how to really build a team that moves faster by upgrading the human side of the software. So without further ado, let's dive in and welcome Bradley. Bradley, it's a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here, Maheen. I wanted to thank you and Sahil as well. He was a blast in coordinating this. So
Now let's begin our conversation by understanding the move from coaching to AI. Bradley, you have such a unique background as an accredited leadership coach, yet you've built one of the most practical AI adoption platforms for SMBs. Tell us, why did you create an AI operating system instead of just using the tools? Like, what was the inspiration and the motivation behind this?
you know what? I think it's an excellent question. And if I'm to be completely honest with you, I did fall into the tool trap early on where I was building up my coaching business and working with other founders as well. And I made a significant investment into AI tools. And what I found was a lot of the results that I was getting and a lot of my clients' results were not very unique. It was kind of generic, and it didn't drive the value that I expected AI to drive for
Right.
myself and other business owners. So I call it the tool trap. And I see that everyone's buying the hammers, but nobody's actually building the house.
Right.
Because tools without context, it's just expensive toys. So what I ended up doing was watching founders spending thousands on AI subscriptions and still get generic garbage out of them. And the problem wasn't the tool, it's that the tool knew nothing about them, their business, their voice, and their customers. So I come from 20 years in tech startups, scaling teams, building systems. And the one thing that I learned is that execution without infrastructure just creates chaos faster. And AI is no different. So I built EAIOS, the Elevates AI operating system, because founders don't need more tools. They need a system. And I built it in 3 stages. So you start by creating the system that learns everything about you. I call it the POS, your personal operating system. And from that, it bridges into your business operating system. And then from there, it's really good thinking is what you've created. But when you have your business operating system, that's when you can take more advantage of AI and have it create complex tools and things that truly serve you and your clients. So in the end, I think AI should really feel like a cheat code rather than some college course you got to learn.
No, that is seeing that even the smartest teams are held back by outdated internal systems. It makes a case for a total operational reboot. Now let's explore the real reason businesses really struggle to adopt AI effectively. Bradley, please shed some light. Like, why do SMBs struggle with AI adoption, and why does the human side matter more?
So in the end, I think it's not a tech problem. It's really a clarity problem. I'd say the number one reason that SMBs are struggling with AI is the same reason they struggle with delegation. They haven't necessarily done the work to articulate what's in their head, and you can't delegate to something that doesn't know what you know. So I've been talking to founders who say, I've tried ChatGPT. It's just not that useful. And when I dig in, they've basically been asking a stranger off the street to run their business for them. And at the end of the day, AI doesn't know who they are or what they're building or who they serve. So the human side matters more because the quality of your AI output is directly proportional to the quality of your self-knowledge. And if you can't articulate your positioning clearly, neither can your AI platforms like ChatGPT or Claude. If you don't know your ideal client, the AI is not going to know it either. So this is where my coaching background actually becomes a huge advantage. And I've spent 20 plus years, not to date myself, helping leaders get clear on who they are and what they're building. That work doesn't disappear when you add AI. It becomes the foundation for everything that AI does. So the bottleneck isn't really the AI, it's the founder.
This really helps us understand the real barrier to AI adoption. And thank you so much for shedding light on this, Bradley. It tells us like focusing on culture and alignment. It really ensures that AI becomes a teammate that eventually solves problems instead of a distraction that creates more work. Now let's discuss how EAIOS helps teams implement AI into daily workflows. Please tell us more about what does an AI operating system look like for smaller teams, and do they need any technical skills to operate it?
You know what? That's an excellent question. And let me unpack that a little bit. So I think there's a few ways that I look at it. The way that I really see it, for me, AI is kind of that strategic co-founder that's working with me at my pace. It understands who I am and where I'm going. So let me walk you through EAIOS and what you would actually build. And this is something that you can do on your own. You don't necessarily need my tool, but here's the concept that will allow to be more successful with AI moving forward in the future. And basically, EAIOS is that creator that it kind of does everything for you. So this is what we actually build. So stage one would be your personal operating system, and it's a dedicated project. And what a project is it's just something that it knows you, it knows this context. Whatever you
Right.
speak to it in this box, this is your black box. And
Mhm.
so it learns everything about you. I've trained it to learn your values, your goals, how you communicate, what you've built, what you're building. And it creates a series of files that I call brain files. And it's a cheat sheet that AI reads every single time before it goes off and has a task. And the reason
Right.
that I start with your personal operating system first is because I imagine, Maheen, beyond Canadian SME, you've probably got some other ambitions in your life as well that go beyond the workplace. I think that's the one thing a lot of founders that I've worked with get wrapped up in is they attach their identity to their business. And when they come into a time of crisis or something like that, then they forget what's really important. So something that was critical for me in building EAIOS was making sure that founders have that holistic life attached to their AI system. So we start
Right.
with the personal operating system. And then what we do from there is once it's interviewed you and it's built your brain files, we create a bridge into a business operating system. So it takes everything it knows about you. It's the same idea, but for your company. So then we interview you, or the system will interview you. It takes in your positioning, your offers, your voice, your sales processes, your SOPs. And now the project can write proposals in your voice. It can handle an objection the way that you would, or it would draft an email that sounds just like you wrote it. And finally, we take it into stage three, the business owner applications, the BOA. And that's where it starts to begin to create custom automations built on your foundation. That's lead generation, CRM updates, content systems, reporting. And the thing is, technical systems and skills, it sounds crazy, but really at the end of the day, all you need to do is be able to type and have opinions.
Right.
Seriously. Stages one and two, zero coding. And stage three is where we get a little bit more hands on, but even that is more about thinking clearly than it is about writing any code. So a
Mhm.
typical client goes from AI curious to having a functioning operating system in under a month. So the first two systems are really just good thinking, and
Right.
first two stages are good thinking, and then we've turned it into a system.
Absolutely. And building a structured system, and it really allows for even a small team to really punch far above their weight class by really automating the high cost, busy work that usually kills growth. And to all the founders that are watching in 2026, I'm not a tech person. It's no longer a valid excuse for really staying stuck in 2015. I mean, our competition is using AI to do the work of six engineers for a fraction of the cost. And if your team is really drowning in busy work, it just ultimately becomes that we aren't really leading, we're just managing the chaos. So please, listeners, the tools are here. The question is, are you ready to lead the change? Now coming back to our conversation, Bradley, let's look at how your specific background in coaching supports this technical transformation. You're one of the most interesting things about your work is that you aren't just an AI guy, you're a leadership coach. So tell us, how does your coaching background shape the way you help founders actually adopt AI, not just buy tools? And why is that perspective so critical for long-term success?
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I guess the way that I look at it is like coaching isn't therapy, it's precision questions that unlock execution. So my coaching background actually completely changed how I approached this project. And because every other AI implementation I've seen, it starts with the tools. Here's how to use Claude. Here's how to use ChatGPT. Here's a prompt template. Go wild. And it works great for about 2 weeks. Now, coaching taught me more that behavior change, including how someone uses a new tool, it always comes down to identity and clarity. If a founder doesn't believe they're the kind of person who uses AI strategically, they'll dabble. They'll try it when they remember to. They won't build a system. So before we touch Claude or an AI tool or platform, we do the inner work. What are you actually trying to build? What do you want your life to look like in 3 years? What decisions are draining you that you believe AI might be able to handle? And like any good coach, you want to identify where's the gap between where you are now and where you want to go. And that clarity, that becomes the foundation of the entire operating system. And founders who've done that work get radically different results because every prompt they write has a strategic intent behind it. So the coaches who are teaching AI right now are mostly teaching prompting, is what I call it. And I'm teaching founders to think clearly, and then the prompts become very obvious on a tool that fully understands who they are and what their goals are. So you can't outsource your thinking to AI if you haven't actually done the thinking yourself. And that's where we start with EAIOS.
That is very insightful, Bradley, and we wish you all the best with with this endeavor and what it helps, how it helps SMBs, really tackle this digital transformation. And a team that is aligned on vision and values, it will naturally find the most impactful ways to use AI to drive the business forward. So, thank you for highlighting this. And finally, let's kind of explore how businesses are turning AI from curiosity into real operations. What mistakes do founders make, Bradley, with AI, and how can they see results quickly?
That's an excellent question. I think I would say there's 3 traps, and I think I've got one quick win for you. So the 3 mistakes that I'm seeing constantly, the number one big one is they're treating AI like Google. And I think it comes from our history in how we've adopted digitally, right? Remember back in the day before Google, we might have had like Yahoo and we type in things to try and find these websites that may or may not exist. And we used keywords and we used to put these weird generic strings in to our search engine because it's more likely to get us the web page that we want. So that's historically how people have learned to use Google and interact on the web. But now we've moved into this age of AI. And to do that and operate effectively with it, you need that missing piece in the middle. Everyone's treating it like Google, but it's so much more powerful than just a search engine now. And if you can give it that context layer, that's really what EAIOS generates, is that context layer for you. You're going to get better results. So you're going to get responses that have a context, that understand your goals, who you are, and where you're going. So that's kind of the goal there. The trap is everyone's treating it like Google. And what you want to do is provide it that context to give you your Ferrari instead of your Toyota Tercel, you know?
Right,
And yeah, I'd say the second trap is that a lot of people are starting with the wrong problems when they get into AI. They try to automate the flashy stuff, your lead generation, your content, before they've got the boring infrastructure stuff in place. So that'll cause people a lot of grief in terms of adoption. And I'd say 3 is that they skip the personal layer entirely and they go straight to business. This is where people get right into prompting. AI knows their product, but not necessarily their voice, and everything it produces sounds corporate and hollow. So for fast results, this is what I tell every founder who wants a quick win. Start with a meeting debrief workflow. So after every sales call or client meeting, just dump your notes into Claude, into your boss system, your EAIOS system, and just have it produce your key decisions, action items, follow-up email, and what you learned about that client. I'd say it takes maybe 5 minutes to set up, but it saves you 20 minutes a week every week. And that's usually the moment where it starts to click, where founders stop thinking of AI as a fancy autocomplete, and you start thinking of it as a system that runs alongside them in their business And that's where the ROI becomes very real and very obvious.
Right. I mean, starting with practical outcome focused installation rather than a random experimentation is probably the fastest path to meaningful ROI. But this was such an insightful conversation with you, Bradley. Thank you so much for walking our listeners through the importance of adopting AI and how readily their tasks would be done, in with more efficiency. So thank you for giving us the
Pleasure.
the beneficial side of things. Now that we wrap up, what advice would you give teams whose systems cannot really keep up with growth?
I would say let's not add people before you add intelligence. So before you hire, before you add software, before you reorg, document what you already know. And the reason that systems break during growth is almost always the same reason. It's that knowledge is living inside people's heads instead of in the system. So leveraging AI, it gives you a way to fix that without a massive consulting engagement. You can start by loading everything you know into a business operating system, your processes, your decisions, your voice, your standards. Now that knowledge is portable and replicable, that moves along with you. And then you pick one workflow at a time. You don't try to automate everything in a month. You pick the bottleneck that's costing you the most time, the most money, the most mental energy, and you solve that. And then you move on to the next one. Growth should feel like compound interest, not a house fire.
Right.
So
That is
founders who get that right are the ones treating AI as an infrastructure, not as a feature.
Mhm.
If you're looking for us, you can find us at EAIOS.ca. That's EAIOS.ca, and it'll redirect to elevatesaios.com. But there's a free AI ROI finder tool on there right now at /ROI, and it will map out what it looks like for you to leverage AI in your specific business and how much time and money that could save you at the end of the year, end of the week, end of the day. Takes about 5 minutes to do, and it'll give you a personalized blueprint. And that's where I'd start.
That is a great reminder, Bradley. Really, that the best time to really upgrade your operating system is before the growth breaks it. Thank you so much again for joining us and for sharing such great expertise and your insights.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Maheen.
And listeners, that was Bradley Collins from Elevates Coaching, a masterclass on how to bridge the gap between human leadership and AI operation to build a business that is truly future ready. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. To learn about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. Special shout out before we leave to our partners, UPS and ADP, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. Please keep thriving, and we'll see you in the next one.